This episode is brought to you by the GG button. Hit that GG button to call out a good game or to troll your friends. Order yours today at ggbutton.com and use our coupon code 1PVS2P at checkout to save 10% off your order. Again, go to ggbutton.com, use coupon code 1PVS2P at checkout to save 10%.
Thanks to our friends at the GG Button for supporting our podcast, and thanks to you, the listener, for supporting us.
E3 2016 is over. We're reacting to the upcoming games shown off from the Square Enix, EA, Bethesda, Ubisoft, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo press conferences. It's Friday, June 17th, 2016, and you're listening to the 1P vs. 2P podcast. I'm Taylor Ray. With me, as always, is my brother and co-host Ryan Ray. And as usual, this year, E3 crammed a ton of announcements over all those lengthy press conferences this past week. And if you were like me, if you could stomach all that drawn-out corporate sort of monologuing and some boring on-stage interviews, there were actually some pretty cool games shown off that we're pretty excited about. So let's get started. We want to focus on the actual games themselves. So let's start off with Square Enix, the first one. The actual press conference was just showing off Deus Ex Mankind Divided gameplay and then announcing a new mobile game, Deus Ex Go, on the coattails of Lara Croft Go and Hitman Go. Very popular puzzle games on mobile. But over the next couple of days, they demoed a lot of stuff over their live streams. Ryan, why don't you talk about some of the highlights?
Yeah, Square Enix showed off a lot of footage of Final Fantasy 15, obviously gameplay, short gameplay demos on the floor itself. Star Ocean, Integrity and Faithlessness, that game is coming out soon, here in a few weeks at the end of June. Dragon Quest Builders, this is the Minecraft meets Dragon Quest game that was announced originally just for Japan, but now it's coming to the West, coming next year. Nier Automata, that was a game that was announced, the sequel to Nier, that was announced at last E3, and it's since been delayed, but they have shown off a few sections. They showed off specifically a boss battle that kind of looks like a bullet hell meets RPG boss battle. It was kind of interesting looking. I Am Setsuna. This is the Chrono Trigger inspired game that we've talked about from Square Enix's new studio, Tokyo RPG Factory, and that game is also coming out very, very soon. Very eager to check that out eventually when it comes out. Looked very, very good from what Square Enix showed off. On top of that, they also showed off, and we're doing interviews for Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, the recently announced remaster of the PS2 classic. They talked about at E3 that game is going to have like fast forward options, and some of the more options that they've included in these more recent Final Fantasy remasters, including cheat codes and speed ups and skipping cutscenes and all that. And finally, Worlds of Final Fantasy. This is the chibi-style Final Fantasy game that was announced at last E3 and is coming out here pretty soon. This seems to be kind of like Final Fantasy Junior. Showed off some gameplay of that. Looks very simple, looks very, very rudimentary. Looks to be taking some cues from the Kingdom Hearts series. And they also showed off Kingdom Hearts 2.8, which is probably the 28th or 29th Kingdom Hearts spin-off game. And the important thing to note about that is that it is not Kingdom Hearts 3. They have not said too much about a release date for Kingdom Hearts 3, and have been pretty sparse on details on the actual Kingdom Hearts game that we've all been waiting for years now. So a lot of interesting things from Square Enix. I'm super excited for Deus Ex Go. The past Go games have been really good, highly acclaimed. It's interesting to see them put some of these franchises that we think of as other genres being turned into these like puzzle board game style things for mobile.
I love what they're doing in the mobile space with Square Enix and their Montreal studio, working on these mobile titles like that. Hitman Go was great. Lara Croft Go, like I said before, also great. So pretty neat that they're taking Deus Ex and adopting that style of gameplay for it on mobile. Let's move on to EA, which I have to say, not very exciting. They didn't have much to show off, and yeah, but let's talk about the games. Titanfall 2, they showed off a very, very slick multiplayer gameplay trailer showing off a new grappling hook, which was not in the first game. I thought Titanfall 1 just had a lot of miscues, sort of disappointing, but Titanfall 2, it just looks a lot better from what the little that they've really shown off. They've also announced that it has an offline single-player campaign. They announced their beta, so you can sign up right now at Titanfall.com. And it's no longer an Xbox exclusive, which was a huge part of Microsoft's strategy to get Xbox One players to buy that console to play that game. And so they announced that they're releasing it also on PS4, so look out for that. Titanfall 2, the release date is confirmed for October 28th. And also, I should mention, it's being released on PC as well, so PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And then they showed off the typical sports stuff that they do every year. Madden 17, very awkward esports announcements with that. Some FIFA stuff. FIFA 17, which has a new single-player mode where you're controlling one soccer player. Very similar to what we saw in NBA 2K16, that Spike Lee narrative mode. Also, interestingly enough, they're changing the engine which those sports games are running off of. It's now running on Frostbite, internally developed by EA, that has driven Battlefield in the past. So, apparently they were very proud of that, wanted to show that off.
So does that mean it's going to be laggy and crashing? There's going to be a jet plane that crashes right into the pitch?
You know what? I would think that would make the game even better. It might actually convince me to go and pick it up. Let's skip over it because we don't bother playing either Madden or FIFA every year. There's an audience for that. It's not us. I'll tell you one game I was very excited about, though. Mass Effect Andromeda. A little disappointing that they didn't give us a release date, didn't show a lot of gameplay footage. It was mostly the cinematic teaser. You know, it's also, again, running off their Frostbite engine. Not much to say. I mean, the trailer looked great, but it's surprising that they've teased this even since last year at E3, and you'd think they'd have some more progress by now, but we're hoping for next year. I'm projecting late 2017, so maybe they'll have more definitive details next year on Mass Effect Andromeda.
I would like to see some more multiplayer footage of that game. Mass Effect 3 was the multiplayer was a very surprising final evolution, let's say, of the horde mode style games we played a lot in the last generation of games, and it did it very well, I thought. And I thought the loop progression, and as far as the free-to-play stuff went, that stuff was all great, I think, in Mass Effect 3. And I would like to see a next step in the evolution of that kind of gameplay for Mass Effect. I also think it's great that we know that it's not going to be another Tale of the Shepherd. We're going to have new different characters. We're going to have, of course, all the expected lore and planet exploring that we've come to expect from that big universe, but I'm very glad to see that we'll see a whole new cast of characters to play as.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially because they soured a bunch of people on that ending for Mass Effect 3. So if you haven't played it by now, we're not going to spoil it for you, but just know that it was disappointing to say the least. So, I think the audience for Mass Effect has this sort of low expectations, but Mass Effect Andromeda, it's been years, and I'm glad that they're continuing on in the franchise. One of my favorite RPGs from the last generation.
Speaking of space games, EA has this partnership with Star Wars, and they showed off some of that with a bunch of dev story type fluff where they talked about how thrilled they were that they were working with this license. And then they didn't really show off much of the games. There was no news on that third-person action-adventure game by Respawn. Those are the developers behind Titanfall. Obviously, they're focused on that. But they're also concurrently working on a Star Wars game. There's no news on the new Battlefront. They showed off Visceral Studios is also working on a game featuring the Star Wars franchise. And then other than that, we don't really know. It's just, of course, Star Wars is like the biggest movie franchise to date. And, we're excited to see more games returning in that universe, but EA didn't show off any of that stuff, so it's hard to comment on anything that Star Wars video game related.
Yeah, it was really mostly all filler. E3 is not an event where you should be putting out like these dev diary style interviews where like, we're excited to work on the license. Let's show all these panning shots of people working at their computers with Star Wars characters and vehicles and what have you, and then not talk about what the game is, what it's coming out for, a release date or any updates, like a window at least. Nothing of that sort. So it's just, it's all filler for EA when it came to that. But they did have to show off a game that we've seen before that was announced, I believe it was like last month, Battlefield 1. Very cool cinematic trailer they showed off. So more hype to build upon that. They showed off some campaign and multiplayer in-game footage. What was weird is that they showed about an hour of gameplay at some other offsite event way after the official press conference, which I felt like they needed to focus on that. It's something they should be really, really proud of. It shows really, really well. And the press conferences, I think, is where these publishers need to shine and show the games themselves. And when it's all cinematic stuff, not a lot of substance, not a lot of gameplay, a little disappointing that they're just holding off this event separately. Very awkward. But Battlefield 1, though, still very surprising. I'm very excited to check that game out. It's set in World War I. But yeah, with a lot of that Battlefield twist and trappings around it.
Yeah, what they did show at that offsite event was kind of like two multiplayer matches with a bunch of celebrities and gamers getting together. They played the PC version, some of them playing with gamepad, some of them with keyboard and mouse. And they're playing this World War I map. Was this big field. It kind of looked like rural Germany. And there was a big Zeppelin flying above, and you could over the course of the match, you could actually shoot down the Zeppelin, and that would kind of change the environment. The way Battlefield 4 really did some of that environmental changing stuff with the multiplayer levels, and it looks to be running very well. There was some esports style commentary, but again, we don't really know if that game at launch is going to be very laggy, if there are people who are going to be really be behind the console versions. We know that on the PC version side of things, Battlefield's going to have a higher player count, but DICE has a very bad history with the launches of these games and server times and server queues and not having appropriate server browser settings. And we'll see when Battlefield 1 comes out. If it launches smoothly, a World War I game that is in this kind of first-person shooter style is not something we've really ever seen before. We've seen a bunch of World War II style games, and it should be very interesting to say the least.
All right, let's move on from EA on to Bethesda, which was the next press conference that was scheduled. As we expected, this was leaked way ahead of time. Bethesda did announce a Skyrim Special Edition, also known as Skyrim Remastered, and they did announce that old mods will work with this new remaster, along with the announcement that console mods are coming, just like they did with Fallout 4. This likely pushes back the next Elder Scrolls game. I really expected them to announce this because, like I said before in the last episode, you have this leapfrogging Fallout and Elder Scrolls alternating in different years. And now this is just sort of a stopgap, I think, to satisfy those Elder Scrolls fans, because what a waste that the MMO, the Elder Scrolls Unlimited, really turned out to be. Skyrim Special Edition coming out October 28th. They also showed off, very expected, leaked ahead of time, Dishonored 2. More trailers, more gameplay. It looks more like that polished version of Dishonored 1. Not too many changes beyond the ability to pick between two different characters, one being a main female one. Some new powers that are shown off coming November 11th. Ryan, you excited about Dishonored 2?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first Dishonored. It told the story of Corvo and the way you kind of played that game. If you played it more stealth-like, that was kind of the good ending. If you played it more where you run and gun, you made the world more chaotic, and that kind of played into the morality play that eventually played out over the course of that game's story. And in Dishonored 2, you can play between the original protagonist, Corvo, or his daughter, Emily, and Emily seems to have this darkness power to kind of turn into this shadow creep thing that crawls along the walls and kind of closes the distance on enemies. They did show off some new powers. There's this domino power now where you can kind of make enemies chain react to each other. So for example, if you see 4 guards in a room and you use a domino power and you throw a knife at one of the enemies, it will do the same effect that happens to one enemy will happen to all 4, so they fall like dominoes. Some very interesting ideas for new gameplay powers. I just hope that the stealth gameplay is a little more emphasized, and it just doesn't turn into this. You can only really play true stealth or combat, because I didn't really engage with the combat all that much because I was super interested in playing a straight stealth playthrough in the first Dishonored. So
yeah, I wish it would give a little bit more freedom. That was my main problem with Dishonored 1 when I tried it out. And I just got frustrated with, the game at certain points is really punishing you for trying to run and gun and engage in the combat with enemies. And then at other times, the stealth was just way too difficult to get around. And I would like to see a little bit more freedom. And speaking about the powers, I do have to say what was super impressive was that new ability where you have this device and you can travel back and forth between the past and the present, which I thought was a really, really interesting mechanic. You're holding up this sort of mirror-like device in your left hand, and you're looking into the world as it's happening in the past. So if you see a guard that's at a certain position, you can jump back in time, kill him, and then travel back into the present, and that might change the course of events or affect the environment in a certain way. And it has an effect on the puzzles in game as well. So I thought that was kind of neat when they showed that off with their gameplay footage. Let's move on to other stuff shown off during Bethesda's press conference. Some new Fallout 4 DLC announced. We expected that. This time you're going to be able to build your own vault and machines. Some Fallout Shelter style stuff in there. So some management with your vault dwellers in there. And also Fallout Shelter coming to PC, more quests, new combat system. Something that they severely lacked before when I tried Fallout Shelter was the ability to target individual enemies instead of just commanding your dwellers into a room and then they're just randomly attacking any enemies in there. Wasn't the most effective way to defeat them. So they showed off a little bit of where you're pointing and dragging to individual targets, which I think was a smart idea they should have had from the start. And then some really, really surprise announcements from Bethesda, Fallout and Doom both coming to VR.
Right, yes. These are some of the first big-name games by Bethesda to enter the VR space. Obviously, Bethesda is well-versed in creating these very, immersive, open-world style games. In the case of Doom, that's a game that has very high-fidelity visuals. And, we don't know the nature of these. Maybe this will just be, exploring the Red Rocket truck stop or, a level in Doom. Maybe it won't be you can play the whole game in VR. They said that the VR version of Fallout 4 is coming to the Vive in early 2017. We don't know the specific date for VR Doom, but this seems incredibly ambitious for them, seeing as how Fallout 4 has a lot of trouble barely running on consoles. A lot of frame rate drops and a lot of ugly texture pop in. But it does seem like a good message going forward with VR that big name publishers like Bethesda are starting to make games for them. And, Fallout is one of the biggest franchises and super popular right now. So it just makes sense to eventually announce a VR related thing with Fallout.
Yeah. And especially because in the VR space, we haven't seen really big name AAA titles come in, some existing ones. And that was a huge surprise. So kind of neat. And I do hope that they're able to support a unique experience and it's not just a straight port over. You're playing Fallout in first person mode in VR. So what? You have the screen in front of your eyes as opposed to looking at a TV. That would be a little bit disappointing. So we don't know many details beyond, like you said, is it going to be a full game or is it just going to be this tech demo separate experience? But it's still very cool that they're using this license in an interesting way. Bethesda entering the VR space now with the HTC Vive. So very, very, very cool. They also announced some new free Doom multiplayer DLC. And then we have to get into this because I was very excited about this news. Quake is back in Quake Champions. Just a cinematic teaser trailer. For me, if it's anything like Quake 3 Arena or Quake Live, that sort of speedy, really fast-paced arena combat multiplayer, I will be so pumped.
Yeah, I've been playing Doom multiplayer very recently, and that seems like the world's most inessential multiplayer. It's fine, it runs okay. Doom was kind of the granddaddy of single-player first-person shooter campaigns, and Quake was really took it to the next step of these multiplayer arenas. It eventually led to this arms race of Unreal Tournament and all this other really fast-paced Twitch-style hit-scan weapons. A lot of these memorable levels where you just see a bunch of jibs flying apart when people throw rocket launchers at each other and flat cannons and sniper rifles and all this really crazy fast-paced stuff that was really part of the PC gaming world back in the early 90s. And it's just interesting to see them revive Quake. Doom was really well received, I think, by both critics and fans. And it's good to see that id and Bethesda are both looking to take advantage of Doom, the Quake license. They did a great job with Wolfenstein with them and Machine Games. Just really, really great stuff coming out of them, and they're the original things that made first-person shooters great in the first place. So really looking forward to seeing more on Quake Champions.
Right. Even though they didn't show off any gameplay, it still is great news because the rest of the conference, was a little bit disappointing. There wasn't much else for them to talk about beyond the VR stuff. And I think that was really a great, exciting surprise from them. Let's move on from Quake to Prey, announced officially now. There have been talks and rumors about Prey 2 for a long time, seemingly canceled. So this isn't a sequel. This is instead a reboot of the original game that was released early in that Xbox 360 lifecycle. This time it's a little more Blade Runner-esque, right? Prey 1, it was just such like a weird experiment. So curious to see what they're going to do here. Really interesting teaser trailer. I thought that Prey was this dead license that nobody really cared about. I didn't feel like there was a lot of passion. There aren't a ton of fans that were saying, oh man, I really miss Prey 1. I wish they could do something with it. So
yeah, to me, Prey just reads like very generic sci-fi at this point. The teaser trailer didn't really do a whole lot for me. I kind of wish that Prey was being traded out for more Dead Space, because Dead Space I thought was kind of an interesting step in the kind of in that direction of turning first-person shooters into kind of something different. Dead Space was, of course, a little more horror style, and Prey was going for, I think, something a little bit different. It had like a Native American protagonist. It had this like extra-dimensional alien type stuff.
Yeah.
And just a very weird game from the 360's like launch cycle. And I'm not sure about this one. I'd like to see a little bit more before I come to a definitive conclusion on Prey.
Yeah, definitely agree. Let's wrap it up with the last stuff that they announced. New Dark Brotherhood DLC for Elder Scrolls Online for the 5 people that still play that game. It's going international, so they're opening it up to a Japan audience. They did announce One Tamriel, which is actually kind of a neat thing when it comes to MMOs, where everybody auto levels up and all areas can be accessed from the get-go. So if you're new to this game, and I think this is one of the big problems with MMOs in general, that sort of level scaling, that progression that prevents you from playing with some of your friends who are more experienced, who've leveled up their character way beyond the starting point. You can now just explore and go into any area. So kind of a neat experiment that they're doing there. So also Elder Scrolls Legends card game coming to mobile, beta coming soon. This thing is competing directly with Hearthstone and Gwent, which we'll talk about in a bit, also announced at E3. So more card games. The craze is here.
I love card games. I don't know that Elder Scrolls Legends is something I was really looking forward to. They're trying to play off the popularity of the Elder Scrolls games, but I think the secret sauce in Elder Scrolls is that people really liked Oblivion and really liked Skyrim, and I don't think they really know that like first part of the subtitle of the game is like not a thing that they're really attached to. They're just going to look at this
Right.
as like, hey, this kind of looks like Magic the Gathering. It might get that audience, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah. So look out for that on mobile if you're an Elder Scrolls fan and also a CCG fan. All right, let's move on to Microsoft. Started off with Gears of War campaign and co-op gameplay footage. Looks just like Gears of War, just like you'd expect. It's coming this October on Xbox One and PC, but here's the new thing about it, is that there's cross-play in all modes. So if you're playing multiplayer, you're playing the co-op campaign, or Horde mode, which they did confirm is back in Gears of War 4, you'll be able to play between Xbox One and PC players. Also, they did show off a new Gears-branded Xbox One Elite controller. Ryan, you excited for Gears of War 4, aren't you?
I really like the Gears franchise. It was one of the things that originally convinced me to buy an Xbox 360 back in the day. The Gears has kind of lost a little bit of its luster with Gears of War Judgment and the kind of delay that they've had with Gears of War 4. But, of course, you play as Marcus Phoenix's son, JD, and a whole new set of Gears cogs. And it looks good. I wonder how they will handle the crossplay stuff. Of course, if you're playing on PC, you're going to have an advantage with keyboard and mouse. And Gears multiplayer has this a very bad lag problem where everybody tends to, because of the significant networking issues that they've had, everybody tends to roll up close and play with shotguns, which is a super effective strategy. And, the shotgun is not the only gun in the game. So we'll see. It looks super good. It makes me want to rebuy an Xbox One.
Oh, really? Well, that's a huge endorsement. I didn't think you'd ever say that one. But yeah, I mean, if you're not wanting to play it on Xbox One, of course, like I said before, you could play it on PC. And that was sort of the overall message I thought that Microsoft was trying to get at here, is that they're really unifying their platforms, which we'll get into in a bit. But probably the biggest announcement, which was leaked ahead of time, was that they have a new console revision. It's confirmed. Xbox One S. So standing for slim. It's coming in 3 sizes for memory. So you have a 500 gig internal memory. That's $300. A 1 terabyte is $350, and a 2 terabyte model is $400. So this Xbox One S, is 40% smaller than the existing Xbox One, which is a huge console already. It's going to be 4K ready. HDR gaming, they've sort of touted, which all that means is that there are some better contrast levels. So blacks are blacker, whites are whiter. But in reality, it all depends on what you're outputting it to. If you have a TV and monitor that supports that, it's going to look great. And if you don't, I don't know how the Xbox One S is going to compensate for that. And then a whole bunch of marketing gobbledygook around that too. What's the better controller? Did they mention any of the new features, Ryan? Do you know?
Yeah, it's going to have Bluetooth, and they're extending the range on it. And the better controller, it has better grips on the back, and like the sticks are a little more. It's basically a halfway step between the original Xbox One controller and the Elite that they're selling for $150 or whatever it is.
Got it. Okay. And then of course the power supply is integrated now. No external power brick this time, so they're consolidating that to make it a little bit smaller. An integrated IR blaster, which is something the other one didn't have. So if you use it for a cable pass-through, you no longer need to buy an additional IR extender to communicate with your cable box. It's coming out August 31st this year, very soon. Something noteworthy, though, which I noticed, was that when they showed off the back of the Xbox One S, there was no Connect port. So doesn't it seem like they're just abandoning it? I mean, we haven't seen a lot of Connect titles lately, but now I feel like this is the nail in the coffin, don't you think?
Right. Well, they've said since the announcement that they will be selling an adapter, and if you currently own a Connect and an Xbox One, and you're planning on buying the Xbox One S, they're doing a special promotion where if you are, unfortunately, if you're a Connect owner, you can give them all your serial numbers and they will give you that adapter for free. Of course, there are USB plugs on this Xbox One S, and that will still let you use your Connect. But yeah, this is the final nail in the coffin for that particular piece of hardware. And on top of it, Phil Spencer has come out and said that Xbox One S is kind of an incremental upgrade. It's not something that he would recommend people who, and he actually did say this is how he's pitching this to people. It's not for people who are looking for, if you're looking for your games to run better on Xbox One, the Xbox One S is not for you. He said, wait for the next big thing, which is Project Scorpio. Wait for the bigger, more powerful box. This is really just for current Xbox One owners who want a smaller console, who want something a little more efficient. So, if you have a 4K TV and you want to see that HDR gaming, which is a little bit of a misnomer because most of the games that Microsoft's put out, besides like the Forza games, are not that colorful, right? Like Halo's not that colorful. Gears is like historically like a brown game. Like
right.
It's just weird to see them tout this like higher fidelity thing when most of their games use this one color palette. So we'll see how that plays out for them. I think people are going to be interested in the One S. That original Xbox One was such a huge console, right. And for them to come out with this thing that's 40% smaller and more efficient at these price points with more memory from the start, it's an interesting move.
It is. It certainly is. And let's also mention Project Scorpio, which they did confirm is coming out sometime next year. So that the official quote was, when it ships next year, we believe it will be the most powerful console ever built. So big marketing from Microsoft coming out swinging, I think, to get ahead of Sony and the rumored the PS4 Neo, that 4K model that they were talking about. And they were really at this press conference making a pitch from developers who are sort of supporting this new Project Scorpio. Not many details, though, beyond the 4K and Ultra HD content. It screams desperation, in my opinion, especially when they have nothing to show off. They were able to show you and tell us what the Xbox One S will be, but for the Project Scorpio, like, why buy an Xbox One or One S right now if you know this thing is coming out in a year? You know, what's the price going to be? Like, why is it worth it to buy a more powerful console if Xbox One games are going to run on all these consoles at the same time? Which is also something that they said during the press conference. They said, if you buy an Xbox One game, you'll be able to play it on any one of these three consoles. Very interesting marketing choice from them. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, they are positioning it, and I think very smartly so, to say that we're trying to offer our players a choice. You can either buy this box, one of the boxes that we're selling, the original Xbox One, the Xbox One S, or this fabled Xbox Scorpio that's going to cure cancer and do all this other magical stuff. Or you can buy it on the PC platform. Of course, the Windows 10 store. They're not selling their games on Steam. Phil Spencer did say on Giant Bomb's E3 coverage that he is open to the possibility of selling first-party Microsoft games on Steam eventually, but for now they're trying to make this pitch about this Xbox Play Anywhere program where you buy one version of the game and you'll get the other version for free, right? If you buy the Xbox One version of Forza Horizon 3, which they also announced, you're going to be able to play the Windows 10 version through the connection through your Microsoft account. Same thing for the next Halo game. Anything that's first-party Microsoft, they're going to try to sell you on this version of you can play it on your computer, or you can buy this box that will connect to your TV. But it's an interesting pitch. We'll see if people really go for this. I don't think Windows 10 is super popular. I'm running Windows 8 on my PC personally, so if I'm interested in any Xbox games in the near future, I'm going to have to look at buying an Xbox One console, and I'm not sure that I really want to do that right now. I'm being persuaded to do so a little bit more with these new announcements, but I want to see the games that justify this increased power, this 6 teraflops or whatever that they're purporting that the Scorpio is going to have. Where are the games that are going to justify this increase in power?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, though, if you need to upgrade to Windows 10, it's only free if you're an existing Windows 7 or Windows 8 user. It's only free for a short while, so you might want to get on that and future-proof yourself so you don't have to buy an Xbox One. Because that Play Anywhere thing that they did tout during the press conference is that you're going to get access to other versions for free, but if you're buying the disc-based version, like let's say you go to the store, you buy the retail copy, that is not going to be this cross-buy, this Play Anywhere. It's not going to be a part of that program. You can only play those on an Xbox One. So you have to buy these games digitally, either through Xbox Live or on the Windows 10 store, which I also thought was very interesting. Like, why not unify it? Why not give you an incentive to buy these games, the physical copies? Like, why are you punishing those people who prefer those? It's just interesting move. But let's talk about some of the games that are a part of this program, because it's not including all Xbox One games. This year's Forza Horizon 3, Gears of War 4, ReCore, and next year's Sea of Thieves and Halo Wars 2 and Scalebound will be included in this Play Anywhere program, where they're playable on Xbox One or Windows 10.
Let's talk about some of those games. They, of course, had a lot of more announcements. They showed off some State of Decay 2. This seems to be pushing this zombie open world game into a more of an MMO direction, which the developers have said in the past that was the original vision that they had with that game.
Much bigger environment, even though State of Decay 1 already had a huge open world to go through. I personally liked it despite all the jank that came along with it. Ran into a lot of bugs on PC. I know I'm not the only one, but very ambitious, and I appreciated what they did. Very cool open world zombie apocalypse style game.
They showed off ReCore, which had kind of a fun, stylish trainer. I did get some Mega Man X vibes with the jump and dash platforming. It seems to be that there will be some puzzles where you change your robot dog into different forms. You move the core and the robot changes forms, much like a Transformer might. Interesting new kind of game. Sea of Thieves, which is the Rare developed pirate game where you'll be able to sail the seas and play with your friends. I'm curious if this will take the Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag style of naval gameplay, or if it'll just be like you and your 4 friends, like basically trying to crash your ship into the rocks or see how far you can get your cannons. I'm curious to see what that gameplay will be like. It looks very colorful. I will give it that.
I don't know. That looked super boring to me. I don't know. It didn't look very interesting to me. It's not my kind of game.
They did show off a little bit a trailer of Halo Wars 2. This is the real-time strategy game, the sequel of the Xbox 360 game, coming to Windows 10 and Xbox One on February 21st of next year. We'll see what Halo Wars 2 looks like. This is, of course, made by Creative Assembly, the guys behind the Total War franchise that has been super popular on PC. And probably one of the bigger announcements, Forza Horizon 3, the next great game in the Forza Horizon series. This is the kind of more arcade-style racing game. This time it's taking place in Australia. The first game took place in Colorado. The second game took place in Europe. Of course, because this is taking place in Australia, a lot more colorful environments. You can play on the beach. There's going to be some deserts. They have dune buggies now, which is going to be very fast-paced, a lot more jumps. Forza Horizon 3 has a grappling hook. This seems to be the year of the grappling hook in every game. It looks beautiful in a car porn kind of way, the kind of thing that really rivals Sony's Gran Turismo style of game, and the Forza games, which are more simulation style, traditional racing games. This is coming September 27th on Xbox One and Windows 10. I am super excited to check this game out.
Yeah. Definitely. It looked incredible. I thought that was one of the better games they showed off during the conference. Let's run through the rest of these because Microsoft, they just went on way too long. They were meandering quite a bit. Inside announced another game from the makers of Limbo. Gwent, the Witcher card game, this is where it was first revealed. They showed a lot of that gameplay, supporting crossplay between PC and consoles coming this summer. This is, of course, the very popular side mode to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, a card game that was touted as being one of the best parts of that game, and now they're spinning it off into its own standalone game. So again, back to what we were talking about before with Elder Scrolls Legends, it's competing directly with that and Hearthstone as well. So be on the lookout for that. Ryan, you excited for Gwent?
Absolutely. They've said it's going to be free to play. It's going to have a lengthy single-player campaign. They said it's going to be around 10 hours, which for a card game campaign mode is like, that's the kind of game we're talking about, like Pokemon trading card game length style campaign. Super excited. Gwent was like one of the best mini games that's been in an RPG in quite some time, and I'm very excited to see that it's spinning off into its own thing.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I know you were excited to see more Final Fantasy 15 stuff, but not in this way, right? They did show off some gameplay footage of this golem boss battle that I have to say it looked kind of bad, a little bit boring. It's still Final Fantasy 15. I think so far there's a lot to be excited about that game, but just not the way Microsoft showed it off, right?
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a statement that this was at the Microsoft press conference and not Sony's press conference. I think Final Fantasy has this interesting history with Sony products. Final Fantasy VII was kind of like the game that made the PS1 make sense for a lot of people, and that introduced Japanese RPGs to a Western audience. And for Final Fantasy 15 to be shown off in front of the Xbox community and to just have a really bad boss battle being demoed, like, that was a bad look for that game. So hopefully that doesn't sink it. One bad demo doesn't sink that game entirely, but we'll see. They also showed off another leaked game right before E3, Dead Rising 4. This is not an Xbox One exclusive, but it's possible it is coming to other platforms. It just might come to Xbox first, ahead of maybe a PC or PS4 version, just like Rise of the Tomb Raider. Of course, with Rise of the Tomb Raider, the PS4 version isn't out yet, but that game did eventually come out to Steam. This takes Frank West is back. This seems to be taking place back in the setting of the original Dead Rising game in Willamette, Colorado. And it's taking place in Christmas time, which is like a great setting. Like, this is going to be the Die Hard of video games. I am so pumped for Dead Rising 4. Like, you cannot, Dead Rising 3 was one of those games that I bought when I originally bought my Xbox One. That was like the first game that I bought. And I love Dead Rising 3. I love Dead Rising 2. Very excited to check it out when that eventually does come.
Yeah, they didn't announce a release date for that, but just like you, super pumped for that. I have to agree with you. Dead Rising 3 was a great start, great launch title for the Xbox One. I love Dead Rising 2, and I even played Off the Record, where you could play as Frank West. A very cool spin, very cool take on that by Capcom. Yeah, very good history in that series. Excited about the new updated changes with that. Let's talk about some of the changes that are coming to Xbox Live. So not specific to games, but some major announcements here. They're adding Cortana. So if you have the luxury of an Xbox Connect, you can use the voice recognition to search for stuff. Listening to background music during gameplay. So that's a big for a lot of people, I think. This was not well supported, I think, on the original Xbox and on the 360. It wasn't supported on a lot of games. The one I can think of off the top of my head was maybe Amped 3. It wasn't possible in every game, but now, seemingly, you'll be able to play whatever background music you want as you play. Some new social features here. They announced Clubs, which is sort of this Craigslist-like community section where you can put up one ads for a partying up, so you can group up with others to play certain games. You can enable whether or not you want to voice chat or not. Also, Arena, which is a new tournament platform on Xbox Live. So some hosted competitive events there. Pretty cool stuff. I think those are some important features for Xbox Live to separate themselves from PSN. Let's get back to games. Tekken 7. All right. It's been a while since we saw any news about that. Microsoft did say that it was an early 2017 release in the trailer, but according to GameStop, after the fact, their date has it being released on March 31st of next year. So there's this new story mode. Akuma is playable. They showed him fighting against Heihachi. Some cool crossover there with Street Fighter and Tekken.
Yeah, in a year where the Street Fighter game has a bad or incomplete story mode, the pitch of Tekken 7 having a story mode is like a big deal for a fighting game all of a sudden, and makes the fighting game scene a little more competitive than it has been. Yeah,
definitely. But one thing we should say before we wrap it up with Microsoft is that, where's Cuphead? You remember that? That was that Boss Rush 1930s cartoon-style game from last E3 that got a lot of people excited to check out, and they did not show off anything about that. Wish they would have said something about an updated release date.
Yeah, they played a quick trailer showing that indies support Microsoft, and Cuphead was in that, but it's just recycled footage. Allegedly, they've made that game there's a little bit more meat to it. It's not just straight bosses. There will be a little bit more platforming sections, supposedly a lot like Super Meat Boy. But yeah, I would like to hear more about Cuphead. That game looks super cool. But we just don't know when it's coming ever. So
yeah, well, I'm going to lean on you heavily to talk about this next one, because this is the one press conference that I did skip. And from what I heard about it afterwards, 2 hours worth of one press conference might have been too much. So Ubisoft announced a bunch of stuff here. Let's go through this list. Ryan, they started off with a new Just Dance game, right?
Right. They didn't show off any gameplay footage. They just had this like giraffe dance number. But what's interesting about the Just Dance is that they did say it was coming out to the NX, and that makes it the second official NX title announced. Of course, the other one that we will get to is the new Zelda. But yeah, Ubisoft coming again with the launch titles. They showed off this game, Star Trek Bridge Crew, which is a VR Star Trek bridge simulator for the rich people with 4 VR headsets and 4 attached PCs. Worst LAN party ever. They did show off some of the Star Trek actors, LeVar Burton, Jerry Ryan, some other people from the Star Trek TV series playing that game. They said it was very true to the original vision of the TV show. And I just don't know who's going to play that game. That's a heavy ask. Who even has 4 VR headsets? I have a hard time getting even one into my house. So We'll see if they'll maybe dumb down the specs, or maybe they'll add an online multiplayer where you and your friends can kind of get together and pretend you're going on flying on space adventures on the Enterprise. They did show off some new Division DLC. That's coming. It's called The Underground. It's going to be available here shortly on June 28th. They're promoting this as saying that's going to have randomly generated urban dungeons, daily quests, better loot. This is a shot in the arm badly that the Division needs. I think it's kind of trailed off as a lot of other multiplayer style shooter games have come out, like Overwatch. The Division is this game that I think everybody moved to from Destiny and into that, and it badly needs more new interesting content. Here's a surprise: a sequel to Grow Home is coming. Grow Up. This is going to be a more expansive game where you crawl, and it's going to take place in space. It seems to have a little bit more of the Katamari aesthetic than the Grow Home original game did last year, and I'm super excited. That was one of my favorite games last year. I'm very surprised to see that there's going to be a sequel pretty soon after the release of the original game. Glad Ubisoft is bringing that back. A game that's available out right now, Trials of the Blood Dragon. This is the little baby of Blood Dragon and the Trials motorcycle game. Supposedly, it's not very good. It has this very like colorful 80s action movie style aesthetic, but apparently there's some platforming, which in a Trials game is kind of weird. You basically in the Trials games you play as a motorcycle and you try to get through these like tough motorcycle challenges. I don't know why you would ever get off the motorcycle in a Trials game, but apparently that's what happens. So I'm interested in checking that out. It's only $15, but we'll see. And the big game, Watch Dogs 2, which was leaked ahead of time, but Ubisoft did show off some gameplay for that game. It sounds like it has an incredible soundtrack, a little bit more hip-hop. The protagonist in this game is African-American. It's taking place in San Francisco. And Ubisoft is saying that the game will have better driving than the original. But will people play this game after the huge disappointment that the first game was? Taylor, do you have any thoughts on this?
I have high hopes for it. They're moving in the right direction. Watch Dogs 1 was pretty disappointing. They tried to go for the GTA money, and it didn't work out so well. The combat was really boring. The hacking was just not very tight. It's the driving around and being able to control traffic lights was, in concept seemed like a neat idea, but in practice got super repetitive and was not very useful. I like the direction that they're going with this. It's more of it seems like it's a more colorful, more fun experience. Watch Dogs 2 was leaked a little bit ahead of E3. Yeah, I don't think it will be as disappointing as Watch Dogs 2, but we need to see more of this game to be sure.
Right, it's coming out later this year. They did show off Ghost Recon Wildlands gameplay. This is the open world co-op, let's call it Tom Clancy's Cocaine Nightmare game. Basically, you play as these like FBI, DEA agents trying to go after maybe like the Mexican cartel. Basically, all these people who are running drugs. And
I love these working titles you're coming up with.
Yeah, I should be a game developer, right? They did show off some gameplay with, of course, some horrendous like team speak that like they did with Rainbow Six Siege. But at the very least, Wildlands looks to be a colorful game. We'll see if it takes some cues more from Splinter Cell or from Far Cry. They also did show off For Honor. This is that Vikings meets Samurai meets Knights Dynasty Warrior style third-person action game. It has some one-on-one combat elements. They did eventually put a release date on it, February 14th of next year. Looks super interesting. The combat seems to have this kind of like rhythm to it, with button presses and sword slashes. Will it draw more of the Dynasty Warriors crowd? Will it draw more of the Chivalry crowd that really likes that game on PC? Chivalry was the Chivalry Medieval Warfare, that like multiplayer, basically medieval chaos simulator. But For Honor is an interesting game for sure. And they ended their press conference with a surprise new unreleased title, a new sports game called Steep. And this looks to be an extreme sports game. SSX meets 2 Extreme. Looks very, very cool. They showed off snowboarding section. They showed off basically guys jumping off a mountain, going down with a wingsuit. It looks to be kind of going after that like X Games market, and we don't really see a lot of this kind of style of sports game. And for Ubisoft to go after this kind of game, is really something different. It's not an open world game. It's a sports game. Ubisoft doesn't typically do that. My one question is, will you be able to climb a tower? Because it's like the company mandate that in Ubisoft games you have to climb towers. So,
yeah, Steep to me, it's continuing the grand tradition of working titles. Let's call it the Red Bull Extreme Sports Simulator. Okay, that's what it sounds like to me after your pitch right there. No, but yeah, I like the fact that they're experimenting more and moving away from the open world that Ubisoft is mostly known for. With new IPs like For Honor and Steep, very cool to see these new games that they're trying out. Those are the two I'm probably most excited for coming out of their E3 press conference. All right, moving along to Sony. Sony started off big with God of War for PS4, and this is a Rise of the Tomb Raider style reboot of God of War. And this time around, it's no longer this Greek aesthetic to it. It's now this sort of Norse, Viking mythology, maybe Druid, it's mixed in there. Very interesting gameplay demo that they show that was live. And Kratos looks so different. He's older. He's got this super, super long beard this time. And he's directing his son around like a forest, snowy setting. And it just seemed so different from what the God of War series is really known for. This angry, mad Kratos before just like battling all the Greek gods. He's pissed off all the time. This one seems a lot more grounded and more of an emotional narrative, I think. And it was a really, really interesting gameplay demo, I have to say. We do know that you'll be able to direct his son, use it and order him around the environments in this third-person perspective, using these button prompts. So, yeah, very curious to know more about that game. But with the little they did show, I like the direction they're taking with that, moving away from the Greek stuff and moving on to rebooting Kratos in a Norse environment.
Yeah, and just a point of clarification, they did say after they showed that gameplay footage off that this is the same Kratos from the original games. They talked about coming at it from this perspective of like basically Greek mythology, Norse mythology, like no matter the like world culture you're talking about, we all have these kinds of same stories, but they're all told with different characters, these different kind of cultural perspectives. And this is basically them trying to get at that with God of War. This is the same Kratos. This is the same angry guy. He's just older, a little more wise. Maybe he has a new wife. That seems to be his new family. Remember that in the original God of War, the whole premise of it, the whole reason that he has this kind of white skin is that those are the ashes of the relatives that he killed in a blind rage. And that's why he was so angry. And this seems to be a second lease on the God of War franchise. And I think God of War Ascension didn't do a whole lot for people. And I think now it has everybody's attention with this new focus and this new gameplay style. Looks very, 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 very cool.
Definitely agree. A new IP, another game called Days Gone. They showed off a cinematic trailer showing this character on a motorcycle. And it's this apocalyptic action style game. Sort of looks like Last of Us with even more zombies. Don't know much about it, but they did tease that. Here's the big one for me out of their press conference. Resident Evil 7. The way they announced it, the title is, let me clarify, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. So they're taking what the Japanese name for the series is called and inserting it here, introducing it to the Western audience. And over there in Japan, as far as I understand it, that one's being called Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. So pretty cool how they're unifying that brand. But this is coming out for PS4 and PlayStation VR on January 24th, 2017. A very, very, very interesting, very cool gameplay teaser that they were showing. It's set after the events of RE6, that disappointing one. You're walking around first person, so that's definitely a big departure from the past Resident Evil games. Set in a dark, derelict plantation mansion somewhere in the rural U.S., this more photorealistic look to it. It just looks absolutely terrifying. I would love to see this played on PSVR. It seems ripe for that kind of experience.
Right. They seem to be taking some cues from Konami's canceled PT, and it seems to be that style of gameplay. And horror games are made for VR, right? This is like the quintessential VR experience that people really want. And they did say that this game is playable all the way through with PSVR, which would be kind of a first, right? Like with all these VR experiences, we expect these like either tech demos or these like short 20-minute chunks of gameplay. But Resident Evil games, like the campaigns of those games tend to be about 15 to 20 hours. So if you can play that game all the way through PSVR, like, color me interested. I have never been more excited about a horror style game in quite some time. And they did announce that there is a demo available now on PSN. It's called Resident Evil 7 Beginning Hour, and it's available exclusively to all PS Plus subscribers. And I'm excited to check that out and see if Capcom is looking to breathe new life into the Resident Evil franchise.
Yeah, very cool. Props to Sony for keeping that secret for so long. Barely any leaks coming from them. Going on to Detroit Become Human. They showed off that and Horizon Zero Dawn, both of those for PS4. I have to say, though, what they showed of Detroit Become Human got me much more interested in that game. They showed an intro scene with an intense hostage-style showdown between two robots that have become sentient. And the different dialogue choices you make will affect how that scene plays out. And I thought that was a very, very, very cool. Got me much more excited for that. But then also Horizon Zero Dawn, it's looking better and better since they showed it off at E3 last year.
Yeah, they showed off some gameplay that seems to be going a little bit more. They showed off some of the crafting systems. You're going to be able to kind of hit specific enemy weak points, and that will give you different crafting materials. They showed off the main character's weapon is this kind of bow, but it'll have these kinds of different arrows, like arrows, for example, where you'll be able to trap enemies. You'll be able to eventually get this item where you let you hack the enemies, and that will give you different abilities. So some enemies you hack, you'll be able to ride them. Some of them, they'll become kind of like combat buddies, and they'll help you out in combat. But that game looks beautiful. I can't wait to check it out. I really like the Monster Hunter style games, and I think there's also Horizon Zero Dawn is trying to cross that bridge between Monster Hunter, which is kind of like this deliberate combat hunting simulator, and like the Devil May Cry style gameplay, which is like third person action, very like reaction based, very like dodge enemy movements. And I think if they can successfully marry those two, it's going to bring out a whole new audience that may not have been receptive to either style game, but may have the perfect marriage in Horizon.
And beyond some of the new games that were announced were a bunch of news for PlayStation VR. Official release date now, October 13th, later this year. Ryan, you've already pre-ordered it, so I'm counting on you to give me the official review for it. But a ton of VR-supported games, including Final Fantasy 15, which we talked about before. But they have this side FF15 VR experience where you're playing these boss battles in first person. But what they showed looked really awkward and kind of bad. Like you're stationary shooting a gun at this Bahamut style boss, and I wasn't too impressed by that. But it is there. They at least are announcing more games being available for PSVR. But more interestingly enough, another side experience to another popular franchise is Batman Arkham, and it's apparently a detective mode tech demo where you're able to solve the crime of who killed Nightwing. And if you've played the Arkham games before, you're familiar with the detective mode where you're sort of using Batman's technology to investigate crime scenes, find fingerprints, things like that. And instead, you're using it in a first-person perspective in PSVR. So very interesting. Also, a Star Wars X-Wing mission which you mentioned in last week's episode, Ryan, that you'd love to see X-Wing and TIE Fighter come. Let's hope it's an X-Wing TIE Fighter reboot, right?
Right, yeah, they're branding it with the Battlefront title, which of course you would, because that's the most recent Star Wars video game related thing. But I just don't understand why this isn't going to be blown out into a full X-Wing TIE Fighter style game. I would love that. That would justify VR entirely. Like, if VR is an entire failure and the only thing that we get out of it is a new X-Wing TIE Fighter game, it would have been worth it. And instead we're just going to get this one mission that hopefully is super cool. Hopefully it runs well on the PSVR and PS4. But oh my god, I am like more disappointed that they're not going to turn this into like even a Rogue Squadron style game. Come on, like when we think about VR style games, you know, the spectrum is like the bad Final Fantasy 15 demo of like you shoot a gun at a thing and that's the end of it. Or we get the like immersive like first person cockpit, I'm flying this space fighter, like super cool fantasy that we all have in our heads when we like, yes, I'd really like to be an X-Wing pilot, please. Like, that is the game that I want so badly. I hope that it becomes a little more fleshed out. Hopefully it'll encourage the developer to go back and turn it into a full game. It's Criterion. These are the developers of Burnout. So, you know, they know vehicle style games. I really hope that they take the feedback from this game and turn it into something with a little more progression and something a little deeper.
PSVR, I think, has a lot of promise because you don't need a higher end PC. It's at a lower price. And if it just ends up being all these bite-sized experiences between, you know, Batman Arkham and the Star Wars X-Wing single mission, and then this like side Final Fantasy 15 thing, if it just ends up being those and not fully featured games, it's going to be super disappointing. But I found it interesting that they went out of their way to say that Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is fully playable both on PS4 and on PSVR. So they're making a statement saying that that is a full game versus these other side little mini experiences there. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, because nobody has their hands on a PSVR yet.
All right, the next few game announcements are very quick. They didn't really show off much other than titles or trailers, so we'll move for them pretty quickly. They brought out Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima, of course, working on a title with Sony. That game is called Death Stranding, and apparently it has stars Norman Reedus of Walking Dead fame, and he was naked holding a baby. It was very weird, very Hideo Kojima. We don't know what kind of game it will be, but it clearly showed that he is back. He is not interested in making more Metal Gear games, and he doesn't want to work with Konami anymore. He's now working with Sony. So super excited to see him back in game development.
Nice reunion between Hideo and Norman Reedus, because Norman Reedus was set to star in Silent Hills. So great that they're collaborating together this time.
Absolutely. They did show off a little bit of Last Guardian. That game is coming out with an official release date. It's actually coming October 25th. You have here in our notes, aka Development Hell Simulator.
Yep,
basically, The Last Guardian is like the Japanese Duke Nukem Forever. It's been talked about in secret forever. It's finally coming out. Apparently, there are now 2 dog bird things in the game. Of course, trying to take some hints from Shadow of the Colossus and Eco, and we'll see if that game is any good. The big announcement, I think the thing that everybody on at least my Facebook wall is talking about, they're bringing back Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot Remastered. So this is Crash Bandicoot 1, Crash Bandicoot 2, and Warped. That's coming to PS4 eventually. They did not say a release date, but they did say that they are working with Activision, who owns the Crash license, that they are going to bring that to PS4. And they also said that Crash will be playable in Skylanders, in the next Skylanders Imaginators game. There's going to be a Skylanders, and Crash looks very goofy, the model that they showed off for that.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting like such fervor over Crash Bandicoot. I didn't know it was this popular among Sony fans, but apparently it is. They're very excited that it's back and remastering those original 3. But if you're going to remaster Crash, you might as well go with those 3. But I would add Crash Team Racing to that list, personally.
Maybe it'll be part of their DLC plans. They did show off some Call of Duty Infinite Warfare single-player gameplay. Of course, Call of Duty now has a co-marketing deal with Sony, so Call of Duty will be coming to PS4. All their DLC will be coming 30 days ahead of time. They did show off some low-gravity fighting and dogfighting in space. Call of Duty is kind of in an interesting place this year because when they showed off Infinite Warfare, it was the most disliked video on YouTube in history. And I think Call of Duty fans are kind of people who are looking for more realistic military games. We have a friend actually like this who said he's not interested in playing multiplayer games that aren't realistic. We tried to pitch him on Overwatch and he's like, oh, it's too cartoony. He is the exact right person, ripe for Call of Duty. And I don't think the last couple of Call of Duty games have really set the world on fire. Even though like Advanced Warfare played super well, it had this kind of like fast movement based thing, but I don't think people were super into it. Black Ops 3 didn't set the world on fire. And I think Infinite Warfare is them trying to get Call of Duty back in a good place. They're of course pairing it with Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered if you pre-order the game. And we'll see if Call of Duty in space captures the imagination or if it'll just be people excited to be playing a remastered version of Modern Warfare.
The little that Sony did show did reinvigorate my interest in Infinite Warfare because I have to say I like that they're going in new directions, that they're not just putting out the same modern military shooters, that they're trying to go into the future. And dogfighting in space is like an interesting new feature that they're trying to introduce. So it's your typical on the ground, boots on the ground, shooting around like you'd expect out of the Call of Duty franchise. But then you can jump into a spaceship and fly around, which I thought was really, really, really interesting. And plus the low gravity, and again, continuing the great tradition of grappling hooks being added to games this E3. Also, a new mechanic added to Call of Duty. So very handy, I'm sure, in those low gravity battles. But it really did reinvigorate my interest because I sort of had a lot of COD fatigue this past year. So kudos to Sony that they have that marketing agreement, because I'm sure it's doing wonders for them, being able to release a lot of that content early, 30 days before it arrives on other platforms.
And last but not least, the ultimate grappling hook simulator, a new Spider-Man PS4 game by Insomniac Games. This is the, of course, working title. They don't have an official subtitle for the Spider-Man game, but Insomniac, of course, known for the Ratchet and Clank games. This was originally rumored to be a Sucker Punch game, which, of course, Sucker Punch, the developer behind
Infamous.
Infamous, correct. And the game looks, from the little gameplay that they showed, it looks beautiful. It's showing off. It might have the new Spider-Man Miles Morales, not Peter Parker. If it goes off the tradition of the good old Spider-Man games, like Spider-Man 2, that movie game that really...
The Amazing Spider-Man, wasn't it?
The Amazing Spider-Man, which is kind of...
No, it was Ultimate Spider-Man, wasn't it? Which of the two?
I think there were two games, an Amazing Spider-Man and Ultimate Spider-Man. The one you're thinking of is Ultimate Spider-Man. These are the kind of like open world style games where you play as Spider-Man trying to solve crimes and fight against supervillains. But the really neat part of those Spider-Man games back in the day was the web slinging, moving through New York at a really fast pace, and like zipping around and like really exploring these like massive environments. And it just like the movement was so fluid, and it felt fun. It felt like you were actually being Spider-Man, which is like the ultimate goal of these superhero games. So hopefully, we'll get some more information about that. That's in development, and no release date, but excited to see Insomniac going for Spider-Man.
And last but not least, let's wrap it up with Nintendo. And we knew about their plans in advance because we knew they were going to focus on Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it really paid off. We know that it's coming to the Wii U and the new Nintendo NX. And their focus on that game, I think, paid dividends because, it just looks really, really gorgeous. Kind of a departure in the series because it is open world gameplay. They did show an official trailer there, but also a ton of gameplay demos through their Treehouse events in the following days during E3. My official notes that I have from the official trailer showed Link doing a ton of things that we haven't seen before in the series, and some stuff that is repeating, but swimming, cliff diving, hunting and gathering, cooking, shield surfing, all right, rock climbing, tree chopping, sword combat, puzzle solving, Link shirtless, Link in knight's armor. You can play dress up with him. We saw that a lot. And also some technology here. So it's a kind of a new wrinkle here we're seeing in the new Zelda franchise. You're walking around with the sort of tablet, which is sort of a nod to the actual Wii U gamepad and I guess whatever the Nintendo NX is going to have. So kind of a neat mechanic that they were showing off where you can generate obstacles and boulders and things to help you traverse the environment using the technology in the game. But it has this pastoral art style to it that I thought was really neat. And if you're familiar with Skyward Sword, it kind of looks like that. Still gorgeous looking and seems extremely ambitious from a series that is known for being extremely ambitious.
Right. And in the reveal and the gameplay footage, there was a 20-minute demo playable at E3, and it had one of the longest lines for anything ever at E3. But basically, the Zelda is taking cues from modern RPGs. Link is not just going to have just like one tunic. The tunic has like armor values, and the weapons are going to have durability now. When you fight enemies, you might be able to like break off a skeleton arm, for example, or like basically use their weapons against them. It's just this very interesting direction. You can climb on anything in the game. They did say that when you climb to get kind of like all the waypoints on the map, you'll have to climb a tower, much like you would in an Assassin's Creed style game. It just seems to be like Nintendo taking all these cues from like modern RPGs and all these other action style games and like folding them into Zelda, which is like the biggest game franchise. People who don't play video games know what Zelda is. And it's just crazy to me that they're like doing something new with Zelda while also staying faithful to the same, like, Link has to be Link, Zelda has to be Zelda. I think that aspect of it is a little disappointing. They already introduced the idea of Linkle. Why can't you have a female Link? But that aside, I think this is a new, interesting direction. There seems to be like a cooking aspect into this game. It's not going to have linear dungeons. You can tackle the dungeons in any order. They also Onamuna, who is the producer of this game, also said that you're going to be able to get to the end of the game without playing all the dungeons, which will be great for speedrunners. They're also going to have these like little mini combat dungeons, not just like the bigger style dungeons that you're used to where you have to use the boomerang to solve this puzzle. They're going to have these little like one-offs like you might see in a Tomb Raider game where it's this like one puzzle that you have to solve and then you move on. It's just this really interesting direction for Zelda to go in. And I am so interested in this game. I don't know how many people will buy the Wii U version because that's definitely coming out before the NX version, but I think that might be my first NX game when that console does come out.
It would have been great if they came out and said, here is the Nintendo NX, and they said all along they were very upfront about, no, we're only going to demo the new Zelda Breath of the Wild on Wii U. We are not bringing the NX, but it would have been a great, great surprise if they had, wouldn't it? I mean, that would have stolen all the attention from E3 because, up against other console announcements like the Xbox One S and Project Scorpio, it would have stood out. If it was playable there, if they had showed off the new style of gameplay and showing off Zelda, that would have been an excellent, excellent opportunity. But unfortunately, they didn't. So now we just end up with Wii U gameplay. A bit of a disappointment, but still, I'm still excited that a new Zelda is out, and it's an even bigger open world than what we've seen in this existing franchise.
All right, let's run through some of the other not as big Nintendo announcements. They did show off some gameplay for Pokemon Sun and Moon. They had a whole interview with the developers. That game looks promising. They did show off 3 new Pokemon who aren't the starters. It looks to be like a Pokemon game.
Not much to say about it.
Yeah, the battles did have a little bit more animation to them. They're doing this new thing now where if you see if you see a trainer in the tall grass, they're going to do this little vignetting to let you know that like if you walk much further, you're going to run into a trainer battle. So I think some neat quality of life improvements for that style of Pokemon gameplay. That's coming later this year. They also did talk about their other Pokemon project, Pokemon Go, which of course originally started off as a Google Maps April Fool's Day joke that they're now turning into a fully featured Nintendo stamp seal of approval product. They talked about how it's going to be paired with this Go Plus, which is a peripheral Bluetooth accessory available for $35. But Pokemon Go itself is free to play. Will be playable on iPhone and Android, which is big news for Nintendo, not on a Nintendo handheld. And they reiterated that in the beginning, they're only going to have the first generation of Pokemon from the Kanto region, from the original blue, red, and yellow versions. More Pokemon will be added during the game's life cycle. And from what we saw of it, it seems to be like an idle game with geocaching elements. So, for example, if you go to your neighborhood pool, you might encounter some water Pokemon. If you climb up to an active volcano, you might encounter fire Pokemon. Although I don't know how much Nintendo wants to encourage people to climb into a volcano to catch fire Pokemon. But I don't know what gameplay wise it's really going to be, or if it's going to turn out to be a little bit more of that that 3DS Pokedex thing, or a 3D model view for Pokemon.
No, it is this augmented reality style game where you're pointing your phone and you're where you're showing on the camera is a Pokemon appearing in the environment itself, and then you have to play these sort of mini games in order to capture these Pokemon. And it's sort of this collect fest in a free-to-play mobile title, but unclear whether or not it's going to include microtransactions. But from what we know from Nintendo so far about working on mobile titles like Miitomo so far, was just not very good. But I think they're going to get behind Pokemon, especially because they're selling a completely separate accessory. This Pokemon, what is it called?
The Go Plus.
The Go Plus is shaped like a little Pokeball pin that you attach to yourself. I think this is going to be successful, especially with that younger audience who they know that either their parents or they themselves have smartphones. They can run around their environments and do this sort of augmented reality geocaching style game. I think it's a neat concept.
I think this is Nintendo's gateway drug into the world of Pokemon. Pokemon is this thing that has this kind of universal appeal, but we now have people who are interested, who could be in that game's potential audience, who only play games on smartphones. So this may be the gateway into getting Pokemon in the hands of new youngsters. They did show off a new title, Ever Oasis. They showed off some gameplay of that. This is a brand new Secret of Mana style action RPG for 3DS from the studio who brought us the remaster of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask on 3DS, and the less well-received Triforce Heroes. The producer on this game did work on Secret of Mana, which is this Super Nintendo action RPG classic that I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten to time, but it looks super interesting. You're going to be able to kind of switch between two characters in battle, and it's going to be a more an action style RPG on the 3DS, which looks really cool.
I'll tell you what's not so cool. Mario Party Star Rush, they also showed off a little bit on 3DS. I mean, seriously, who wants to play Mario Party, let alone on a handheld? But it is supporting up to 4 players. I don't know. It's not for us.
Nobody wins with Mario Party.
Yeah, nobody ever wins. But during that same announcement, they also talked about a new Super Mario Brothers amiibo series, including my personal favorite, Waluigi, and a new Wario and Rosalina and Princess Daisy, Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong. So new amiibo characters announced. And finally, Rhythm Heaven Megamix, which was a surprise drop because it's available now, both the full game and the demo downloadable on the 3DS. Rhythm Heaven, of course, very cool, very quirky rhythm style game, sort of like WarioWare as well. Very cool that they showed off, very fun. So let's wrap it up by talking about what games from this E3 we're most excited about. Ryan, let's start with your list.
Yeah, absolutely. I am really interested in Titanfall 2. I think the promise of that first game has me at least interested in what that game will be. Mass Effect Andromeda, I would like to hear more about that. I am, of course, all in for a new Mass Effect game. Dishonored 2, I think the premise of the original game, again, is playing into my interest level for Dishonored 2. maybe I will review that game at some point when it does come out. Dead Rising 4, again, like I said before, it's bringing together this like Die Hard style Christmas movie, action movie thing with Dead Rising, a series I already really love. Hopefully, they don't go back to the original Dead Rising style of timer, where it's a very tight and difficult game. I'm interested in Gwent, the Witcher card game. That game, I love card games. I'm interested in a single player, basically Magic the Gathering knockoff. But in Gwent is kind of a simplified version of Magic, and I am super interested. Hearthstone doesn't do it for me anymore. Grow Up, I'm super interested in the follow-up to Ubisoft's surprise indie hit from last year. Horizon Zero Dawn, again, I'll say it again, they're trying to bring the two audiences of Devil May Cry and Monster Hunter fans. That new God of War game, who would have thought in 2016 that we would be excited in a new God of War? It's not an angry Kratos. It's now like hashtag dad game. It started
angry
with
Norse dad.
Angry Norse dad. It started off with hot Ryu, and now we're getting all these old gentlemen protagonists with beards and sons and daughters. Here, another game, Zelda Breath of the Wild. I am super fascinated by the Zelda franchise. I have not really been this interested in a Zelda game since Wind Waker. I was not interested at all in Twilight Princess or in Skyward Sword. And I think this is Nintendo's push to try to bring both new and old fans back into the Zelda franchise. I'm super interested in Pokemon Go. I think Mitomo was an interesting experiment for Nintendo. And I think I've kind of fallen off a little bit of the Pokemon bandwagon a little bit. And I think this like free-to-play style geocaching game on a device that I actually carry all the time with me is super interesting. We didn't talk about it, but they did show some Persona 5 gameplay and more footage of that game. It is coming next year for PS4. And I really love the Persona series. And I am super looking forward to this new stylized take on that world. Final Fantasy 15, a few missteps in demos this E3, but I'm super interested in that game. The demos they've released on PSN have been super promising. I really like the more action-y style gameplay as opposed to the traditional turn-based Final Fantasy games. And finally, Steep, Ubisoft's extreme sports push. I don't really play a lot of sports games, but I really love snowboarding games. So hopefully they really get behind Steep. Taylor, what about you? What are the games that you saw this E3 that you're like in on for day one?
Yeah, I have some repeats from your list. Titanfall 2, what they showed that gameplay seems like a lot of good improvements from Titanfall 1. Because I frankly, I like Titanfall 1, but it really lacked the progression that I really wanted in a multiplayer game that I think games like Call of Duty do so well. And to add things like new movement, in addition to like double jumps and wall runs with now grappling hooks, and improved Titan gameplay, it seemed really appealing to me. I think they did a great job of showing off that game. Mass Effect Andromeda, again, another repeat from your list. Still excited for that. Dead Rising 4, also love that series. Zelda Breath of the Wild, I have to agree with you that it is trying to bring back the audience that might have missed out on Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess, like you and I did. They've sort of put in the stopgaps of remastering Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask for 3DS, which were fantastic, but it's time for the next mainline game. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait for the Nintendo NX in order to play this game. It looks fantastic. But some other ones that were not on your list were Quake Champions, because I was a huge fan of Quake 3 Arena. Played it a ton. And even Quake Live in college, it was browser-based. I could not believe that you could run Quake 3 multiplayer through a browser. It was absolutely fun, and I would love to see a new multiplayer Quake game, especially if it's this more hero-based style shooter. But we don't know more details about it. I'm still very excited for the return of Quake. And Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. absolute surprise from Sony. It wasn't revealed. The logo wasn't shown on screen until the end, but you could have said that this was like a Silent Hills walking simulator. It almost seems like they were trying to bring back the PT, that playable teaser that Konami had been working on. It looked terrifying. That first-person perspective, I think, is very, very, very cool. And I'm looking forward to see what that game really is. Battlefield 1, which was announced before E3, revealed before, still more gameplay footage that we saw. Very excited to see about that, because I think applying the Battlefield gameplay to a World War I aesthetic, still very interesting concept. I'd like to see more about the Zeppelins and the combat, the air combat from that era. Like, seem really, really, really cool. And finally, Detroit Beyond Human. This was not a game that I was paying much attention to before, but now I am, from what Sony had showed off. These are from the makers of Heavy Rain, and I liked it. I liked what they showed off, the branching dialogue options that affect the story, and I liked the futuristic sort of Blade Runner setting they had there. I don't think too many people were paying attention to it before, and I think they are now. I was certainly impressed by that demo. Any last thoughts you have about E3 in general? Any other games, Ryan?
Yeah, this is kind of a weird show, because of all the developments with the iterative consoles and VR. They did announce dates for next year's E3, but it seemed like this year floor was a lot emptier. They had the E3 Live, which is kind of this public-facing event to try to get more public interest in it. It sounds like the scuttlebutt from developers is that they're not really interested in coming to E3 if it's going to be like this. Of course, Nintendo pulled out of E3 a couple of E3s ago, and they seem to be having more success doing their own streaming plans. EA has their own separate streaming thing. They're doing all these, a lot of the big publishers are doing their own fan events, and I don't know what that means for the future of the show, but a lot of cool video games coming in the next few years, and it's the best time to be playing video games right now. I'm so excited.
We could fill a whole nother episode talking about the relevance and the future of E3 in this industry. But suffice to say, you're right. There were some major players missing, like Activision, for example, gave up their booth space. And some other noteworthy people, like, you have all these publishers and developers that are doing their own things, streaming offsite, separate from the event, at different times during the year. And it seems like that's the more popular move, instead of going to one annual industry showcase. Nintendo does this all the time with Treehouse events. Sony, they have their own PlayStation Experience. Blizzard, they have their own convention, BlizzCon, and Quake, even QuakeCon, they have all these fan events that are separate from E3. It's no longer a requirement to prove to the public and to show off these new game announcements through the press anymore. It's all being live streamed. It's all available on Twitch. It's all available on YouTube Gaming. And the coverage has been spectacular. And to most people who are watching these streams from the comfort of their homes, which include us as well, even though we're discussing all the news on this podcast, it just doesn't make sense to spend all the money creating these booths to play demos in person. What's the value in it for the public? The value is to market directly to the audience that's watching online. So that's the Cliff's Notes version of it, but let's wrap it up. Thanks for sticking with us if you listened to us for over an hour and a half. That's it. If you liked our show, please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes and Stitcher.
You can also listen to us on Google Play Music, TuneIn, Clamor, or our site, which is 1pvs2p.com, or search for us using your favorite podcast app. All of this year's E3 2016 press conference videos, if you're interested in watching them for yourself, will be posted at the link in the show notes, so be sure to do that.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at 1pvs2p_podcast to stay up to date when we post our new episodes. Also check us out on YouTube and Twitch, twitch.tv/1pvs2p_podcast. We'll be doing more future gameplay videos, Let's Plays, and more. As always, we want to thank Phonetic Hero for the use of his songs for our show. Coffee Stomp and Super Manly Brothers X, both of those songs are part of the compilation project Chiptunes Equals Win.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our coverage of E3 2016.
body is ready.